Today's video is on the grim reaper of policy for politicians. Many Australian politicians have tried to grapple with this exact policy. They've tried to push through reform, yet as soon as they dare, they either back down or they end up marked and eventually killed by the special interests infuriated by said politicians' audacity to touch this policy. And that policy is the NDIS for pet fish. Look, my fish has cloudy eye, and I wrote to my local MP, I'm sick of paying for the aquarium medicine and having to put it in myself. Where's my Filipino immigrant to do that shit for me? And you know what? Why isn't the government paying for it? My MP didn't even respond. Better start calling him Martin Brody from the 1975 major motion picture Jaws, because that's how scared of big fish they are. It's a shame because, God, it'd be cool to have fish wheelchairs. Much cooler than actual people in wheelchairs. You guys suck. Hello? Yes? Yes. Yeah, no, it's alright, I'll take care of it. Sorry, that was Burundi. It looks like I'm being silenced by my paymasters once again. We're not talking about the NDIS for fish today. Or ever. But there are plenty of other no-go policies that we can still talk about, mostly shit to do with Israel and the USA. But there's an even shadier and more powerful special interest group with their hands on the levers of power, an interest group that has been taking fewer captives than a low-functioning autistic kid with a terrarium. If it wasn't clear, that joke is a kid that accidentally kills and maims his pets. Yet another reason for the fish NDIS, and this mysterious, ruthless... Hang on. Yep. Yeah, okay, I won't talk about it again. Yep. Yeah, okay, sorry. The mysterious, ruthless special interest group that we can't talk about is retirees on the Gold Coast, and they've been killing off any politician that tries to tackle negative gearing. The policy not to be confused with the pickup technique of the same name, in which you ride around on a tandem bike offering girls a lift, and when the girl accepts and hops on, the bike is deliberately rigged to fall apart, thus making the girl feel self-conscious and bad about her weight. Trust me, boys, it works. No, not that. But the equally awesome and ethical policy in which property investors can claim tax deductions on their taxable income if they are accruing a loss from the expenses on their investment properties. These expenses can be interest on loans, council rates, repairs and maintenance, and depreciating assets. So I don't know why millennials have such an issue with this policy. It's right up their alley. Life hack, anyone? Why have a policy that so obviously disproportionately benefits those who would do fine without it? The answer is, 'cause fuck you. Come on, how mad would it be to negatively gear a bunch of houses, live it up on the river on the Gold Coast, have like one jet ski right out the front of your doorstep? I'm imagining there'd be a lot of dinners at Hog's Breath Cafe or Hurricane's Grill and Bar. Now that's a unique culture and way of life. And what a sick mental image. I'd trade my life for a 6-year-old man on the Gold Coast. Yeah, hurricanes again. That's why politicians can't get rid of negative gearing. It would be a breach of international law. It would be cultural genocide of the Gold Coast. When negative gearing was first introduced by the Lions government in 1936, yes, that's how old it is. It was intended to boost housing supply, and it kind of makes sense in 1936 when the nation of Australia was my age. I still sleep with a Mario Kart duder. It was the same age millennials are now. I mean, come on, you think it was gonna have enough housing? But guess what? Negative gearing didn't really work even back then. Yet we've been stuck with it ever since. And instead of it being used on newly built homes, which was its original intention to boost supply and encourage development, it's now just a Patrick Bet-David podcast investment hack, in that it's the great equaliser. It allows the dumbest people in Australia, wogs that fail basic English, even their long-suffering teachers allowed their comparative text to be fucking Scarface, to become millionaires. Look at the graph. Only about 20% of negatively geared homes are new builds. Bro, you think Tony Montana cared about gay shit like English? He was too busy to care, claiming deductions on all the palm trees and shit that he had to buy for his investment mansions, dude. This means Australia's treasury is missing out on billions of dollars of tax every year for no real logical policy reason. It's a policy that makes it harder for first home buyers to buy a house, doesn't reduce rents, doesn't boost supply. Frankly, it's just unfair as fuck to young people in general. And it also makes Sydney George's river stink even more of petrol. I'm negatively gearing my jet ski as well, cuz.
Finance? Can I say?
100%.
Oh, it's on finance, man. It's all on tick. Yeah, I'd assume so.
Yeah, always taking care of business, lad. So why do we still have it if it's such a quantifiably pointless policy? Well, think of it this way. How mad would it be if you could negatively gear? You wouldn't want to give that shit up. It would rock. And people that have it Vote! It was in the news recently that the Treasury was modelling changes to both negative gearing and capital gains tax, two policies that have had perhaps the greatest impact on housing prices in Australia, which is why I'm making this video, because like, holy shit, Labor. What are you doing? I know people in Labor have started to question whether Albo wants to lose the next election. You have all this political capital in the years after your election win, but you're completely and utterly disciplined about continuing your small target strategy. But just when you start to slip in the polls, that's when you decide. I'm bored. Why don't we fuck with the Lebs who marginal Western Sydney seats? And old people in the Gold Coast who have exactly two hobbies, whinging about their rental properties cleaners using the wrong spray and calling into talkback radio. And whilst I'm at it, why don't I make a post to my Instagram about how I don't actually like the bunnies and NRL is a bastion of toxic masculinity. I mean, I'm all for it. The negative gearing reform, that is. In my opinion, the NRL has gotten far too soft. If they want to stop their declining ratings, they should introduce a new position in the game. Knifer. Or at the very least, rule change, start paying reparations to Hopewade. And so many Labor MPs who came out and backed potential changes both to negative gearing and capital gains tax after the news reports about Treasury modelling. It's just tactically very poor timing. And as expected, quickly after these reports, Albanese reverted to the post-2019 party line, ruling out any changes to negative gearing and citing a Property Council report to argue that reforms could reduce supply, which is kind of bullshit. I would like the Property Council so much more if they just dropped the whole shtick of like, oh, we care about supply, pretending that you care about housing the less wealthy. Cringe. You guys should just care about making money for property investors, and that's way cooler than virtue signaling about supply. Be honest about it. As for Albo, once again ruling out negative gearing reform, don't blame the guy. I really don't. Anytime any politician has taken on negative gearing has won. That is a record that goes back to 1936. Paul Keating got rid of it in 1985, quickly found that this is like taking away an iPad from a Generation Alpha kid, just something you really want to give back very quickly. So that was restored in 1987. In more recent times, Bill Shorten took reforms to both the 2016 and 2019 elections, and whilst he almost won in 2016, the property lobby created this big mythology about his proposed reforms to negative gearing and franking credits. Those were pinned as the primary reasons that Labor lost in 2019. Yet in Labor's own review of the 2019 election, they don't exactly blame the proposed reforms to negative gearing for the loss. Instead, the silver bullet goes to the smear campaign and the sense of confusion that arose from how many policies Labor was proposing. Ironically, the review also found that the campaign against negative gearing was targeted at renters, not investors, with the coalition arguing that rents would go up if Labor reformed negative gearing. Real estate agents even sent out letters to renters telling them not to vote for Labor and that if Labor won, their rents would go up. Far out. How monumentally dumb would you have to be as a renter to take voting advice from a fucking real estate agent? You know, the guys that lied to you about the black mold in your ceiling and are stopping you from getting back your bond because of the skid marks in the toilet from the shit that they took in your toilet while inspecting the place. Not my fault. I had some berries before the inspection. You should have taken me to a nice dinner if you wanted your bond back. Real estate agents, the people that make more money the higher rents and housing prices go, they're saying don't vote Labor. If you do, I'll make more money. And I've already got enough. Thank you. It is a real shame about 2019. Lost opportunity. Shorten's reforms weren't even that radical. They weren't going to remove negative gearing entirely. They were just going to restrict it to newly built dwellings. And that would make it function with its original intent, which was to increase supply. But what you can take solace in is the fact that there are now politicians in every political party advocating for reform. Labor MPs are saying they'd welcome a fight on housing. It feels like it's only a matter of time before there's the political appetite to reform both negative gearing and capital gains tax. And if you want to speed it up, what you can do is join your local branch. Push for reform. Let Labor know that you'll back them up if they put it to an election. In the meantime though, I'm certainly not blaming Labor for not pissing off the million Australians that negatively gear property before the next election. I don't think our Navy could deal with 1 million jet skis.